Yeah, I mean, I disagree, but I mean, I feel like was it Shaq and Charles Barkley said something similar on TNT and
Yeah,
got backlash for it.
and they got run.
Yeah, again, this cancel culture, like you can't even state your opinion on the situation, even if it's
But
based.
that's not cancel culture. That's something different. That's telling all black people that they have alike, and if you don't, you're not one of us. Talk about slippery slopes. That's really dangerous because now you're saying we need to all fall in line, and if you don't fall in line, then you get canceled. But that's basically skin color, which is even worse than just regular cancel culture. But that's about opinions. That's different. This is about race.
But that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of our topics are race based this year. Well, at least not a lot of them. Some of them are. Some of them are race based, and we have seen that on the social media where people are like, how are you black, or how are you Hispanic, or how are you this color and feel this way? And then what happens is, instead of people coming out and saying, well, I'm black and I'm a Trump supporter, or I'm Hispanic and I'm a Trump supporter, they just stop talking. And they might still be a Trump supporter, but they're not going to say it to you anymore. Or they might still feel a certain way about a topic. They're just not going to say it anymore. And then people are saying that. If you are black and you are doing this. No, I know. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
if you look at my post, if you look at my posts, no one ever comments. But I get a lot of DMs. I'm not the only one who's thinking what I'm saying, which is why I keep doing it. I just do it. On every social media platform, I just do it over and over and over. But the DMs come out like, man, I agree with you, but I don't know how you can just say stuff like this and how you're not. It's because I don't care what other people think. But not everybody has that luxury.
And that's why we are trying to start this chit chat, because we want to have the conversation. We want to show the people that are all minorities. We don't even have any non-minorities on the team, and it's men and women, and we have different points of view. Some are conservative, some are moderate, some are a little more liberal. And we talk. We just talk to each other, and we're friends still. It's not like it's a defining thing where we're not talking anymore. Well, except for the one incident I said earlier. But like, for the most part, we talk through how we feel and we get it out and we're done and we move on. But people don't do that anymore.
Could come to have the meeting of the minds weeded themselves out early. So it was something that it happened automatically.
Yeah, people who couldn't handle it literally said, stop inviting me. I can't attend these. I can't listen to someone who I thought I knew and now come to find out that they support, like these conservative views. I can't be
it's scary to know that people can't hear opposition and just digest it and be like, okay, well, they think differently.
Right. And that's
really scary to me.
But
that's not how people grow and learn and evolve. I don't know how that works.
And that's how people being in their bubble. They never left their neighborhood. They never left their community. They never left their usually when people grow up, it's just typically it's the same background or similar income levels, similar people, and that's where you have your base. And so anything outside of that, it's how people fear the unknown. They fear different. They fear it's like it's just basically that. And I go through that with. I tell Shantae all the time, when I went to Whitney Young, that was the biggest culture shock for me. Like, my whole world got turned upside down. I had no idea what I signed up for when I went to school. Like,
yep.
If somebody made a statement, it was just that. Nobody ever said, well, where's your source? Where did you get that from? Like, what? What do you mean? What are you talking about? It's like you just repeated it and people just took it and ran with it. It wasn't like, where are your supporting facts? Where's your source? None of that. Everybody came to a consensus and that's just what it was.
Yep. But then you find out how dangerous that is.
Nobody does their due diligence because they were never taught how. It's that communal, that bubble, that whatever.
It's a
And
comfort.
I don't know if they weren't taught. I think it may have been rejected because especially in the Black community, unfortunately, the more you learn, the more you're right, or the better you speak, the more you're acting right. And that's a culture thing. That's not I wouldn't say they weren't taught. I think there's a refusal to learn because or you do it in hiding, you do it in silence, you learn in silence, and you still put show for other people. Chris Rock made some great jokes about that. It's just, yeah, that's a culture thing.
Yeah.
When he made the joke about hiding money in books because people don't read.
Oh
That's
yeah.
true. That's true, and it's sad because then that means people are locked into what they're going to be, and they're just not going to evolve. Because I came from just as bad as anybody else because I chose to leave. Like she said, we started traveling, we started going, started driving to Florida, we started driving all these places. I moved to California. I lived all over the country now. As soon as I got to California, I realized, okay, it's not the same everywhere. Everybody doesn't have to be like it was. But you see people, there's people who are probably friends on your Facebook they think that the south side of Chicago is how it is everywhere. They just think that. The police everywhere act just like they do in my neighborhood, and that's not the case. You haven't been anywhere, to her point about being in a bubble. You haven't been anywhere. So how can you have this world? You can't have world views if you haven't been anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, that's
Your
deep.
views will always be hood views.
Yep, and hood.
And then you're trying to tell somebody who's been everywhere, because I've been everywhere, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm just telling you, it ain't like that everywhere. It's just not. I'm telling you it's not because I've lived in several states and cities within those states. It's not like this everywhere. There's so much more out there, and
it's hard for people to envision.
Yeah, because they have no frame of reference.
There's no frame of reference. There's no friend.
Not only have they not been out of Chicago, they haven't even been out of their neighborhood. They
Yeah.
barely get to the north side or to the west side or far south. They've only been where they are.
I remember when me and Dave first went to Europe, there were so many people who were like, I really have always wanted to do that. And I'm like, so why not? So just do it. And literally, like, some of the people who had said that to us ended up planning their own trip afterward, or an even bigger trip where they went to like Africa and Australia and all these other places. And it really is just like talking to people. Like, man, they're doing it. Why not? Like, let me just do it. Like, what's stopping me? There's nothing stopping me. So I feel like
start small, like we used to do. We used to just drive.
Road trips.
And then turned into cruises. First, it started Disney World. Like, who thought to go to Disney World from 61st and RT? Like, that's just not anything anybody there does. We just got in the car and went. Yep. And then we're like, oh, there's cruise ships down there. Let's try this next time. And the more you do that, the more you see different places, different countries. You see how good we have it. When you go and you get outside of the cruise area, it's like, ooh, this is rough. I thought I had it rough. But seeing that it gives you a better frame of reference for where you're from, and then for where you're trying to go and what you do not want.
Yeah, that's very.
But just to go back to like the school thing, I feel like school has drastically changed. Like, I feel like I got out right on time because after me it was all downhill. Like, a lot of my younger family members, like, they really just got disciplined in school. They didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
I would even say people like I was just saying, when I went away to school, I came back in the summertime, met up with some friends. They had no idea what I was talking about. That we had totally, like, I actually learned in school. They didn't have that opportunity. And these were people where we were on the same track when I left. Like, they were honors courses, like high honor roll, like academically exceptional. Not even average, exceptional. And it was a world of difference when I came back from school. Like, they started, I don't want to say declining, but they started getting into things where I felt like they could have done so much more. Because we were on the same page. And it blew my mind to see what they fell into versus what they could have been.
Right.
And I feel like it was such missed opportunity. it goes into when you have schools, and don't get me wrong, the discipline problems are there, but it's so much focus on one thing versus the academics. Like I know like older people. I used to work with seniors. They may not know how to spell. They know how to sign their name and they know how to count because they know how to count their money. They don't even have these basic life survival skills. Like they're just out here.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where to begin. It's just like what do you expect people to do when they're not given just the foundation of how to survive? They have a lot of them are not living past a certain age, so they don't have a future. They don't need to go outside of anywhere. They're not gonna they already have it in their mind. They're not gonna make it there.
Yeah.
So where do we begin to turn all of this around? Where do we start off where we say, okay?
And this is one of my biggest issues. One of the things that actually got me looking the conservative route versus going the route that everybody else goes. If we're constantly told that the system is designed to take us down, or we have a target, what is the motivation to do anything different? It's not going to mean anything anyway. So there's a system, a magical system designed to hold you, and you back. Why would I even try? If you tell a kid that's trying out for a basketball team, you have absolutely no chance of making it. Why is he going to step on the court and even try out? We got all our players. You're not going to make it. He's not going to try. There's absolutely no motivation to do it. It's actually worse to tell somebody that even if it was true, you tell them they're not even going to try. They don't even have that experience of failure or success because they won't even try. And you have all these people just idly living. And what I always tell Kawan and my girls is 75 is average. 75% is average. That's what most people are going to be.
Yep.
It sucks to hear that and to realize, all 3/4 of people are just going to be what they're going to be, and the rest are going to be above average. Doesn't even mean great. Just means above the standard, like the minimum standard. Like it's not very positive if you think about it. But if you're constantly telling Shantae, Shayla, you guys have no chance.
Yeah.
You have no chance.
You internalize it mentally, and then you don't try, and then you're stuck in your bubble, and there's this endless.
And then you're mad at this system.
That people.
Meanwhile, you see a lot of people around you getting past this system, so it's not a good system.
Right.
If there really is a system designed to hold me back, it's not doing very well. Because I'm doing very well, and I know a lot of people who are doing very well, who are Black, Hispanic, whatever. The system is failing in a lot of instances, and in your life, you're not failing by any means. So it's not a good system. Then why even talk about it? There's too many examples of great minorities. They're just, and to say all of them are lucky, I don't buy that. Because I should still be on 59th or 61st and on Tuesday if that's the case.
So it's probably some support involved in that. There's probably some mental strength that comes with that. I mean, this is something I've grappled with too my entire life.
We all have that mental strength. Choose whether to use it.
Yeah. It's like, how do you make it out? Or people will ask, they'll be like, oh, you're from where? I know what that is. It's like, yes. Yeah. But then
if you think about where we lived on 61st, there was 4 units filled in a 20. How many units were in that building? 20. It's an abandoned building, Shantae.
It was probably about 12, at least 12 units.
No. There's 4 on this side.
There were
3 on this side, 3 on this side, and then around where Mike stayed, there's 3 on this side. Like, there's a lot of units in that.
12.
Only 3 or 4 were occupied. Whatever it is, I don't know how many it is. But we were living in an abandoned building. Me and Junior used to go through. We used to get on the roof shooting stupid videos.
I remember.
That's an abandoned building. That's why it was so disgusting with the bugs and the mice. That's because it wasn't supposed to be having people living in it. How do you go from that to now? I just went by my new house today, 3,600 square foot house that just got its foundation set. If it's really a system, this shouldn't be happening. There's no reason for it to be happening.
I think there's a lot of factors. I know what you're saying. I think what you're trying to say is that majority of people are caught up in this cycle of I can't do better than what I'm doing, and they have to be able to push past it. But how do you push past it? Like, there's got to be some support system.
There's got to be a will.
And that's my argument. I do think that there are some things that are systematically in place that do take away from people's potential. I really do. I do believe that it's
outside of education. Outside of education, what are those? Outside of education, what are those systems? Because that's the only one I know.
Talk about the home.
That's what I was going to say. The school to prison pipeline of just being arrested and being okay with being arrested, and then not realizing you lose your life after this whole 3 strikes you're out, and then just not having fathers in the home, and then being okay with not having fathers in the home, and then this whole issue of moms having to do everything, and then again just being okay with it, being okay with a single parent.
Who's okay with it?
I think it's now a cultural
setup. It's not that it's okay. It's just that you think that that's just the way it is.
Right.
You think it's how it's supposed to be.
So if you're incentivized to kick the father out and you get more money to kick the father out, what do you think is going to happen?
No, I agree. I think that's where the system is broken. I've never been okay.
That's not a system. That's not a system.
What do you mean?
Those are decisions that you're making. You don't have to do that. That's a choice you make.
So I see what you're saying. But again, if you grew up and this is what you know, and this is what you've done, and this is what you've been taught, if you need money, this is what you need to do. You need to, if you get pregnant, this is what you do. If this is what you're told and this is how you're raised, that's what you know. Okay, I got pregnant. Well, I'm not going to get an abortion, so I have a kid, but my mom taught me all about the aid office. I know the ins and outs. So I understand exactly how I need to survive. And on top of it, I'm doing pretty damn well living off of the government. That's not okay. It shouldn't be so easy, and it shouldn't be, it's work.
But then
let's talk about like how the system is set up as far as aid. Like when you have children and the amount of money, cash benefits and stamps and housing opportunities that you get, once you get this minimum wage job that's not paying you paying you $8.50 now? What is minimum wage now?
I don't know. In Chicago,
once they start these jobs, the amount of benefits that are cut from their check, they quit because it doesn't make sense for them to keep the job. The amount of benefits that they're losing, there's no reason for them to contribute to the workforce. It really hurts.
I agree. They're not incentivized to work, and I think that's part of where, at least in Chicago, because that's really the only perspective.
That's how it is most. That's how it is in most places.
It's just frustrating because you see it happening all around you. You understand it, but you also know that if they can get beyond that, like you said, there's potential. There's all of this other stuff that you can have access to, and people just don't push themselves to get there because they can work the system and they know how to do it, and they're paying $200 in rent, and they get however much they get for the
kids. They're utilizing that same system that they're saying is broken.
Right, but they're never going to see it that way. A lot of people won't see it that way. They've always lived.
Temporary fixes because they have no future to look forward to.
That's the point of the system. That system is supposed to be temporary. It's not supposed to be permanent.
But what I'm saying is, if people don't feel like they have futures, if people don't feel like they have anything to look forward to, they only have the now. They don't care about tomorrow. Yeah. They look for the quick fixes. They look for the handout now because there's no tomorrow, no future, it's no investment, it's no timeline to get something back. It's all now.
Yeah,
yep.
I agree.
And that's where somehow $14 an hour becomes, oh man, you got a good job. Okay.
And even the minimum wage in Chicago, is really high now. I mean, our cost of living has skyrocketed.
That's why I said it was like 8 something. Like, I know it's not that now, but that.
Even if you raise it to $15, you're still at the bottom of that totem pole. That's not the minimum wage thing is a non-issue.
Right.
It's incentivizing people to, the man's in your home. Okay, so we're going to cut your check.
Right.
So then you're like, I guess he's got to go, or I got to pretend like he's out the picture.
Right. That should not be how it is. Family should be supported, and regardless, I agree. I think,
but it also needs to be temporary. You shouldn't be able to get checks forever.
Like that was more old school. It doesn't happen like that in the housing anymore. Like it's not an automatic out for people now, and it's it's treated differently now as far as housing is concerned. But it's just all these other things that put people into these. Just I compare it to the hamster running in the wheel. It's like you're going nowhere, you're just running, and it's disappointing. But I get where it comes from. Like I see it,
Yeah,
I
same
get
here.
it, but it's frustrating.
We went in a whole big. This been an hour, y'all. It's went in a whole big. Breonna Taylor, how did she get involved with the drugs? Why did we make it out?
The whole drug thing.
But it's important.
Like, it's you need it to survive. You don't have a skill. That's a skill. Like if you even think about what people got to do to mix drugs up and cut, I don't know how to do all that. But if you figure out how to do that, you can figure out how to. You know what I'm saying? It's like
yeah, you would have been an excellent business person.
Measuring out bags. It's like who? Like come on now.
Right, you feel the bag. You know it's too light. Yeah, no, I agree.
But that goes back to fathers. I don't know what her home situation is like, but a lot of girls don't have that father figure either, so they don't know what the man's supposed to look like. So they end up with somebody like that, like her ex.
Or they
learn the hard way.
How he was.
What's that?
Right.
Or they did have a father, and that's how he was.
There you go. Yep.
Right.
Because again, you identify with what you see.
Yep. Agreed.
Or you don't identify, and you end up in a situation that you got to figure out how to get.
Right. And that's even harder. And people don't have the mental energy to do that, especially in this day and age. It's like a lot. It's a lot to ask.
Or they don't know where to start. Like you can know something is wrong. And you think about how many people are on drugs now, how many people are self-medicated, how many people are trying to numb themselves. Like people know that something is wrong, but they don't. It's like you don't know where to begin. It's so messed up in so many different areas. It's overwhelming. You don't know where to start.
And when people feel like they want to be more conservative, at least as a minority, and everyone around them attacks them every time they even bring it up, that's the part too that I think I'm hoping these conversations will help with, because it's like, we're in America, and that's the part that is driving me crazy. Is like, we're in America, free speech. I don't care that you don't agree with me. Since when has that ever been? Since when are we calling for censorship? That Joe Rogan thing that you had posted on Facebook, where Spotify employees are saying, if you don't censor Joe Rogan, we're going to strike? Is this
He's
not
got his 200 million. I'm pretty sure he doesn't care what they say.
I know, but it's a podcast, and it's like, in what
it's
world?
Not even a controversial podcast. They just talk. I listen to it. They just talk.
But
he just has everybody on. They don't like.
In what America? It's too much. People have gone overboard. Like I said, that's Shaq, Charles Barkley, their comments on Breonna Taylor, they're saying some things that's not very different than what we're saying now. And people are saying, I'm not watching this anymore. What? Yep. How dare you be black and say anything that keep her name out your mouth? It's a conversation.
The issue is everything has turned into a corporation though. Mm-hmm. The healthcare field, the healthcare field is turned into a corporation, it's out of control. Your jobs have turned into corporations, so they have this PR standard. So even though you have free speech, you don't, because you can get fired. Like we even had this conversation when we were thinking of the chit chat. Like I can get fired.
Yep.
Like we have that conversation. Like, all right, my livelihood could be in jeopardy, but I have a freedom of speech.
Like
it's like
talking to Howard Roar.
Exactly. So like literally,
there's a reason for everything.
Like the news programs, like you know how like the freedom of press, they're all owned by corporations. They all have guidelines, rules, scripts. It's not what it was intended to be by design.
And did you guys have to pass the Constitution test to get out of 8th grade?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
I did too. They don't have to do that anymore. I've been speaking to a lot of people like they don't know those basic, like the free speech. They understand.
They don't know how to write cursive to sign their name.
No, yeah, no, they really don't.
And the math. What is it called? The weird math.
Oh my gosh.
Core math.
Core. Yeah. But if they don't know those rights, there's no frame of reference. Again, going back to what you said, Shantae, part this free speech. This is America. They don't know. I had to get the 7th grade. I had to take U.S. history. To get out of 8th grade, I had to pass the Constitution test, and I went to a crappy school. But I'm glad now that I had it because there's not. That's I think that was a state requirement. I don't think that was a nationwide thing, but I think that's really important because people don't know where we live. They just think that of us as this is a slave running country that hates black people and Hispanics. And
there's a dismantling of
a
our
whole
core
history.
setup that's happening.
Yeah.
And people are literally being taught to hate our country.
Yeah.
And, that's where I start leaning moderate because I have some liberal viewpoints, but where I won't go is like
burning flags and all that nonsense.
Well, I know that I know how America's set up and I understand fundamentally our advantages. And I've read enough of Animal Farms and Ayn Rand's to know how it could be if we have a socialist society. And I get it. I feel like people nowadays, I even brought up Animal Farm to a younger person at work.
They don't know what it is.
They don't know what it is, or they didn't read it, or they didn't even understand that it was actually written from someone who went through it. I think they think it's a thought, it's an idea. It's not.
Yeah.
This is people who went through it. They know what happened because they were there. They're not guessing at it. This isn't like, oh, maybe socialism could be cool because no. History is there for a reason. We're supposed to learn from it. Now, if we start backtracking, that's where my moderate views come from because I'm like, what are we doing here? We're backtracking. We've been through this. There's people here, like the guy who spoke for Trump at the convention, who his roots were in Cuba. He was very much like, America cannot, we can't go that route.
You'll see the same thing from Venezuelans,
right?
Even from a lot of Mexican people.
South America, yeah, it's another example. I feel like people are not educated on it. They think of the idea of socialism and it gets a little dangerous. Like I said, I lean liberal in some ways, but I know the dangers of a full socialist society and how it could be. And I am an American through and through. That's where I'm like, I get hesitant. And then I start saying things that people might not like or might disagree.
So
but you shouldn't have to hit pause when that happens. What'd you say?
What'd you say?
There's no checks and balances if you go that route. It's no way to it's no way to keep one in check. It just goes full throttle one way.
Exactly. And but if they're not taking the U.S. history and Constitution test, they don't even know about checks and balances. They don't understand the House of Representatives and the Congress and the Senate and all of these things that are set up to keep us.
I don't think people, I don't think that they understand that. I don't think that they know, I think that they know it exists.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I'm in like to argue. And there's people who don't understand the difference between legislative, executive, and judicial. They just don't. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not their job to make laws. They don't understand it.
Even pulling back than that, I don't even think that they know that the names of the three branches.
Yeah.
I'm just to give some context. I asked somebody what the body of water was, and they thought it was a Pacific Ocean, and it was Lake Michigan. It's that's fresh water. It's not an ocean. What's the difference? One is salt water, one is fresh water. They're looking at me like I'm just got a horn growing out of the middle of my voice.
You think you all
I'm talking about literally.
Listen over here.
You gotta scale this all. Think about the convenience store. They don't know how to count. I look and see what change they give these kids. They can't count. So we're not getting to three branches. We need to scale back more than that.
But I mean, can we at least agree on America? That's my thing. It's we live in America. This is what that means. And at least talk about it. It doesn't have to be that people understand it right away, but it does have to be talked about. These are the laws, these are the rules. This is how it's set up. It's set up this way for a reason. It was set up to get out of a situation that they were in that they didn't like. It's just such a mess. If you don't understand your history, you're going to repeat it. And I'm just so frustrated when I see people going in the wrong direction. That's all I'm gonna say. Especially minorities, and I feel like there's all these movements that keep happening that are pushing us further and further left from a viewpoint perspective, which I don't hate. I just want people to be making their own decisions and to be thinking it through. That's not happening. It's a groupthink. It's all groupthink.
like even what LaShawn was saying, like I really feel like we need to band together and say, hey, you need to care about what we're saying our issues are and give us what we're asking for. We don't care. It's like you have to stand for something versus just picking what you think is the better of the two evils.
Yeah. The situation that we're in, yeah, I agree. Where I was really frustrated. We had an in-person chit chat during this quarantine, and one of the first things brought up was the campaign, and I'm like, so, I thought people were going to be like, I'm voting for Joe Biden, blah, blah, blah. People were like, I mean, I guess I have to now. And I'm like, so wait, no one here wants to vote for this guy? How the hell is he the Democratic candidate? How did this happen? It's like I'm so frustrated voting. Whatever.
It's great for me.
It's great for you. I get it.
But no, here's the thing.
How does this keep happening where we end up with candidates and everyone I know doesn't want to vote for them?
I can tell you how. If you go back 8 years, when Obama was running the second time, there was a transformation on the right. This is not the Republican Party that was pre-Obama. It's just not. Those people are all never Trumpers right now. You see them on in Joe Biden's ads trying to get him to stay in. That's an establishment issue. Republican Party's changed, and it's changed because of Donald Trump. So you can transform the system. You just have to be brave enough to vote somebody in who will blow it up. Happen. As long as the Democrats keep putting up. No, seriously, that's what he does. Come on. If you watched the debate last night, it's Hulk smash all the way. His base loves that because they do not want.
I can't stand it.
You're not going to say you don't like him anyway. It doesn't matter. It wasn't for you guys. I'm telling you, it wasn't for you guys. It was for his base to make sure they.
I agree with everything you're saying.
Listen, it was so that his base definitely goes out and vote because nobody's going to go out and vote for Biden. I don't care what the polls say. The polls said the exact same thing last time, and you saw me. I was saying it, but months before that election, I'm like, you guys, you really don't see what's about to happen. And, she's got a double-digit lead. What happens in November? The world ends. You see people screaming and crying on TV. I'm like,
but I think
little me. I don't know why.
I think somebody else could see it. Enough weight too was what happened with Bernie. I think they lost a lot of the young vote.
I don't know. I don't think people supported him. I think they had people who were just split. And I don't know how Joe Biden ended up in there because I really thought it would be like a Bernie, Elizabeth Warren.
Because Bernie and Warren stepped out for him. That's why.
This guy is.
But he's establishment. He will not get the turnout. When they lose, they're going to say the same thing. I don't understand how this happened. But I have not met one person who said they would vote for Biden. I know a lot of people. I come across a lot of people with my work. I've never met someone who said I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. Now I've met a lot of people who on the side they try to gauge where I'm at, and then they'll say, "Yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump." I have to give them a little hints that it's okay to say stuff. Otherwise, they're just not going to say it, or like I said, they'll just hit me in the DMs and be like, "Yeah, I'm not voting for Biden." Either they're not voting or they're voting for Trump, and that's what last night was all about. That's all that was about.
It's insane. I get it. And I'm glad we can have the conversation. I'm not like in the right headspace.
I kind of feel like I have to vote for Biden, just because, especially since that whole Supreme Court seat is in the mix too.
It's not in the mix. It's done.
So I think they're going to confirm that's the problem. They have a majority. And I think that's the other thing people are concerned about. When you vote for the president, you're voting for potentially more conservative judges. And that's another reason to vote for Biden. But then you start going down that road and you watch any videos from any time over the past few weeks and you're like, how do I vote for this guy? And not only that, heaven forbid, God forbid he passes away because he is an older gentleman and we don't know his health situation and Kamala Harris is in there. And it's like, I mean, as much as I'm going to support a Black woman president.
Not that one.
I mean, you know what? If that's how we had to claw up and get there. I'm not going to lie. If she was confirmed, I'd probably be like more happy than sad because we made it. I don't know how we got there, but we did it. See how she does? Hey, if there's one thing I know, it's to get to that space, she'll be fine. She'll do fine. If she could do that and get there and be there, she'll do way better than Biden under pressure.
She'll do better than Biden, but don't forget she's the first one to drop out because she was 5th place in her own state. She's not popular.
Understood. I don't think he's going to win. I honestly think Trump is going to win. It's a hard thing to think about because I don't want Donald Trump to win, but I also can see the divide and I can see people not wanting to vote for Biden. So even if they don't vote, even if they don't vote for him, I think they just won't vote. And then Trump will win. And that's the thing that drives me crazy because I'm like, I honestly think Democrats can't handle another Trump win. I think they're going to lose.
They're going to explode. They're going to explode. And I'll be there. Ooh, look at that one. Ooh, look at those fireworks.
I can't. I just can't right now. That debate had me like, is this what we've come to? It's like,
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Of course, I can't. I feel like he dropped that whole thing about spending $500 billion to strengthen minority communities. And I'm like, okay, if he talks about that, that's a really good thing, blah, 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 blah. He didn't talk about anything.
No, he doesn't have to. So this is a whole different conversation from where we started.
Yeah.
But that's not, that yesterday was about his base. It was not about undecideds and all this supposed undecideds. There's no undecideds. Everybody knows what they're going to do. Everybody does. Anybody who says they're undecided is either a liar or they're really, really dumb. I don't see anybody who's like,
Trevor knows that.
Trevor knows with these contrasts, are you really saying, this guy or this guy? No. It's just not realistic to think that there's really people who are thinking that. Yesterday was about his base. His actions are always different from what he's saying. Not necessarily different, but better than what he's saying and how he's delivering it. If you really listen to what he's saying, he's not saying anything different. He's saying it in his way, and do people hate that?
He doesn't say anything in his way. I feel like he's gotten better. When I first encountered him via his campaign before, I just found him to be very defensive when people would confront him. I think he's gotten better with that. I think now it just rolls off. And he's not so defensive and he's not like, no, you're, but he's still annoying because he doesn't say anything that will help anyone new vote for him. He's just.
He doesn't, it's about the base. It's about how strong is your base. How many people do you know are legitimately excited about voting for Biden?
No one. That's what I'm saying.
How many people do you know are legitimately excited to go vote for Trump or go to a Trump rally?
All of the Trump supporters I know are very excited.
There you go. That's the difference.
But again, part of the difference, because even with the Democratic Party, people know that it's putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. A lot of the policies are not what they should be. They're not. It's again, people feel like they're picking the lesser of two evils. When he said, if you don't vote for me, you aren't black. Everyone cringed. Everyone. Nobody made that okay.
I didn't. I smiled.
Nobody made that okay. Huh?
I smiled. I thought, this guy. He never.
Nobody tried to make it okay. Nobody.
No, they were. They were. There was people on CNN and MSNBC that were saying, well, if you really think about it, they're black people. They were trying to defend.
I'm talking about people that I know that I talked to. Nobody I knew made everybody was like.
I literally thought it was a lie. I was like, he said what?
Oh, he said it. He
didn't. No, he didn't. And then I saw how playful he even was. I was like, the ball's on this guy. And I'm like, on the Breakfast Club? Because when you hear it as a sentence, you're like, Joe Biden said what to who?
What?
What is happening?
I was smiling this guy.
I was like, oh, Jesus.
I'm not talking about I know people make things okay. I'm talking about people I know that I talk to. Everybody cringe. Everybody.
Because they know it's come on, this is what they think of you. So that's when you think, hey, is this how they all think? Why are they defending this? Why don't they just shut that down and at least those comments, remarks disavow them? They didn't. Nobody did.
I think people are so against Trump that they're just for Biden, not supporting Biden.
Yep.
And
Yep.
honestly, like I said, deep down in every Black woman's heart, it's probably a little bit, you know what, maybe if Kamala, yeah.
Say racism all the time, but it's not racism, it's discriminatory practices. Like they label it, they mislabel it.
Wait, what did you say they're
So
mislabeling?
I was saying, like, I feel like people miss, like, even when people say racism, it's not always racism across the board. It's discriminatory practices, but people call it racism to give it a name, but it doesn't hit home with what it is. And I feel like the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has a lot of practices that have gone against minority people, and I feel like even a lot of the generations now with the internet and everything else that's going on, they're looking into these things now finally, and they're researching these things. The 3-strike rule, that was the Democratic policy, and
that was the super predator. That was the super predator law that they were talking about. That's what he brought up yesterday. That was even
detrimental to people of color. Detrimental.
All their fathers and uncles.
People are getting life sentences for petty crimes, like petty crimes, lengthy sentences, like all these different rules. It goes with both parties, and that's why I feel like people are calling for systematic change. And it just goes. It applies to both parties.
Yeah,
just a mess. That's all I'm gonna say. And I feel like when, like what you said, Shayla, with people who are starting, we're all in quarantine. People are watching Netflix and they're watching 13. They're watching what was the story of the Central Park 5, and people just are now starting to internalize these things, and they're starting to be like, well, we want to change. And I think they genuinely do want to change. The problem is they're moving socialist without understanding our history, and they want to change the society to make it better for everyone, and without thinking that all the way through. And I feel like that's
or reading stuff. You shouldn't be learning about something from a documentary anyway.
I think it sparks of like, this happened? What happened? How did this happen? And then people are starting to think about it more. And it's great that they're watching these documentaries, but you got to go all the way back to how everything has happened. And if you're going to make change, you got to change, or you have to. There's a way to do it without repeating old mistakes. And I feel like a lot of what I've heard is more socialist. Like, well, we need a society where we're all equal and we all have the same stuff and we all have free this and free that. And that's dangerous rhetoric. I'm like,
that goes, well, I feel like part of that goes in part of just basic human, like as a human being, you have a right to certain things just because you exist as a human. And I go, like, my argument for that is education. I really don't feel like it should be based on property taxes. I feel like everybody should have the same opportunity, unless you want to just pay for a private school, have that option. But I feel like the resources should be in the same lane. It shouldn't be so drastically different.
Why do you think it's different? What do you mean?
I'm sorry, say it one more time, your mic went out.
Are you talking about school choice? What are you talking about?
No, just even like public. I'm talking about the public school system. All public schools aren't created equal.
No, of course not.
So I was just saying the resources. And I'm not saying they're going to be the same across the board, but I feel like they should be comparable. I don't feel like they should be so drastically different. Again, because it's a public school.
And I think some of that has to do with some corruption. Like I said, I can only really speak from like
Chicago. I think it really has something to do with corruption, because how these Powerball, the lottery is going to schools. Like where? Like I need to see how this lines up.
And our taxes are high. So don't tell me that my property tax on the school is going in your pocket. And
the problem with what you guys are saying, I don't know how it works. I just know that where you live is where you have to go to school. And I know that if what you guys are saying is true, there's no way the taxes from Inglewood are gonna equal the taxes out in Evanston. It's just not gonna. You're gonna automatically have better schools in Evanston just by that definition. Which is why I think school choice is probably the most important initiative for Black people to think about.
Yep.
But they also need to think about who's pushing it and who's saying no.
Right.
Because that issue alone, in my opinion, if you have kids, would push you to the right. It's that important.
Yep.
Because you should have to go to a school just because it's closest to you. That's absurd. If the school sucks, you should be able to say, no, I'm going to send my child to Whitney Young instead of sending him to Harvard.
Yep. I agree.
Jail for it for 5 years.
There's a fine. They'll fine you. It's so ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I heard there was 5-year prison sentence for that.
Yeah. I won't say names, but they went to the person's house who we said your sister lived with to verify that she lived there. When they found out that she didn't, that's when they made her go back to the school that was closest to us. Yeah. And that school sucked.
Right.
We're sitting there lying just to get her into a better school. Not much better school, but it was better. It was better than the alternative, which was going right around the corner.
That's what I'm saying. It shouldn't be so drastic, where people take these desperate measures where they will even risk that.
Yeah.
Just potential for better.
Or even worse, that they have people going to check up on it. It's like, what are we doing here? You're paying this person to go check up and see. You're lying. You don't live in this neighborhood. Back to the crappy school you go. Like, we're paying this person to do that.
And when it comes to healthcare, like I'll say all the time, and I think I've even talked about this in chit chat. Like, I do believe that the healthcare should be universal. I do believe that education should be universal. Just because you're really paying for more on the back end, because you have these people that are not seeking medical attention. So it goes from something that could be preventable into a chronic illness, and they never can pay the bill. They never put the bill.
I think there's a way to do that on a local level without it being like a universal situation. Because I think, again, Medicaid is probably very mismanaged. And if we're going to if we're going to revamp healthcare, start at the local level, because when you do it universally through the government, and you already have a system at play at the state level, it's just not being used the right way. Do you know what I mean? Like, people should have access to healthcare. I agree with you, but there's already a thing set up. It's just not being managed properly.
Look at Shantae turning into a conservative.
No, I'm not. I am moderate.
You don't even know it. You don't even know it.
And here's the thing. I feel like
the older you get,
proposed that made sense, I think people would surprise you. I just feel like people there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. So I agree. I also know, I work with people who work in Canada, and I know what it looks like when your taxes are like 60%. It's makes you smile a little less.
And they still have to drive down to New York to get treated.
Exactly.
What's that?
What did you say?
Oh, I said, and those people who are being taxed that still have to drive down to get treated down to New York because they can't wait as long as they have to wait to get their treatments, whatever that is.
Yeah, I feel like people don't talk enough about what universal healthcare means, and it's working. I mean, in Canada, you can ask people for how it works, and I think it works for the healthy people in Canada. But I don't know how it works for the people who are more sick. Like Teal said, like maybe they end up needing some major surgery. Now they're on the waiting list.
The doctor was talking about it, and she brought up the stats, and she basically said the amount of people that they addressed in the preventative measures, basically she was saying overall it works as a system. Because I forgot what it was, but I know she was at a congressional hearing. She was answering questions directly, and he was asking about those things like the weight, like, because he was saying about how it's dysfunctional is what his point was. But I have to just send you the link. She made a lot of good points. Like, I'm still for it.
Yeah.
I'm moving. If I'm smuggled anywhere, let it be Canada.
I'm not paying any more taxes than I have to. I hope one day I get to the point where I can only pay $750 in taxes.
See, that's the other thing. I'm like,
I don't mind paying as long as I get what I pay for. Like, if I could see where my money is going, if there's good good schools and healthcare, I'll pay it. Like, if I could get what I'm paying for, I will pay it gladly.
I think everybody would. The problem is we don't see it.